right. I got a little bit of time here before I pick up the kids today. I took a personal day, and I've been tossing around this concept that I finally saw rather horribly and beautifully illustrated in a video that was done by the Dudist, I think it is, on YouTube. I might be misquoting that wrong. I really don't want to link to this video because I don't want people to watch it. It's not obscene in the traditional sense, or at least the sense that most people who would follow my content would consider obscene. But I do think that it is obscene in other ways. And the video I'm talking about is an hour-long comedy special that was generated via AI about, in the interpretation and imitation of George Carlin, a famous comedian that some of us older millennials and Gen X might know as the guy who taught us all the dirty words. Like it's the words you can't say on television. He did a whole special on it and stuff like that. And he was a really brilliant comic, really avant-garde and like kind of in-your-face kind of comic. Said a lot of things that made a lot of people upset. And he has tragically passed away, like most people do. And someone has taken his body of work and his image and likeness and has made a comedy special using AI that allows us to hear an hour's worth of material about how he's glad he's dead. I'm not sure why someone decided to make this, especially with Dan Carlin. I'm not sure how they did it, like the specifics. I'm not sure what, language model they used or, anything like that. I'm not sure of the details. I just showed up on my feed. And I was able to kind of see what they were doing. And immediately I realized what was happening with the use of technology and what's being kind of overlooked in this situation, because it's not going to stop with comedians. If we're being really honest, the line from a technical standpoint of stand-up comedian to, mega church pastor is really just, how fancy the lights are, whether or not worship music is playing beforehand. They both stand on a stage and they deliver a talk, and that's what the kind of like core construction of the content that's being produced is. It's very easy to gain a body of content to put into one of these AI models from these kind of like individuals, like from a comedian who's going to have multiple recordings of their sets so that you can get the inflection of their voice, all that kind of stuff, to a pastor who's preaching every Sunday, once a week, that kind of stuff. That you're going to be able to build this body of work. So I don't think it's going to stop with just comedians. We're not just going to find our dead comedians, like get a Robin Williams special up there as soon as we can, just because we have AI and, that's the desire for what people do. And the reason I know that is because that's not what humans have traditionally done, historically done with their conception of the dead. What we're seeing with AI right now is something very pagan and very old about humanity. We're seeing what is essentially a medium. And not like medium is the message, though kinda, if you look at it certain, ways. It's a medium. It's a medium, someone who is using some form of skill or art or mechanism or technique to allow you to speak with the dead or allow the dead to speak to you. That's what we would call a medium, that in biblical language. There are examples of this, and there's prohibitions against this, where you don't speak to the dead. And it's a very pagan thing to do, to try to use an art or a skill or a mechanism or a technique in order to speak with the dead. It's a pagan thing to do. It's very kind of opposed to Christianity. And right now, we don't really have, people, at least that I'm aware of, and if you know it and you see it and you send it to me, I'll just do a reaction video, so please don't. I don't know of any Christians who are doing this, any churches, any theologians, or even, progressive Christians or anything in that category. I don't know of anybody who's trying to do this like with Charles Spurgeon, or who's trying to do this with, Arminius, or any of like your theologians du jour, like whoever's been, our famous dead guys. All those characters. I don't know of anyone who's trying to do that, who's trying to make these people who have contributed to the Christian canon, who have contributed Christian literature, and is trying to get them to speak new stuff simply by inputting it into an AI with, parameters set. I don't think that that's happening. I really hope it's not. But I think we all know that it doesn't stop with George Carlin's 1 hour AI comedy special, that it goes forward from there, and people will push that line until it gets to a spot that really is destructive and dangerous, and by then it would be too late. We have one story that I want to just kind of bring people to. It's in 2 Samuel, I think it's 21, no, 1 Samuel 21. And it's Saul. Saul, who has is in the early to late stages of losing his kingdom to the newly anointed David. Needs to, center himself, needs to figure out what to do with his rule, needs some advice. And because he can't go to the temple, because he's kind of ostracized himself for a number of reasons, depending on how you read the story, he decides to find a medium, to find a witch, and the Witch of Endor is kind of sourced for him. Now, he had, in his early years of as being a king, gotten rid of all the sorcerers, and now he's returning back to this pagan practice of finding mediums and ways to speak to the dead. And the story recounts that she contacts a prophet for him, and the prophet rebukes him because of this stuff. Now, whether she did, whether she didn't, I mean, it's presented to us in the scriptures. We're told that you can't, once you enter the afterlife, you can't just come back, that there's, a chasm between life and death that really only Christ can cross. You can go into whole different, theological debates with that. But what we're seeing now with AI is just, a replay of this story that Saul did, that where, we have put aside those. We put aside those things with Christendom and put aside the pagan, desire to speak with our dead, the ancestor worship, all that kind of stuff. We put aside that stuff as Christians just hundreds of years ago. And now with technology, it's just knocking on our door, waiting for us to find our, dead guy that we want to speak to us, or more importantly, we want to speak for us and kind of raise up. Because the technology is presenting itself. It's this weird form of idolatry, of like human-based idolatry, where we want to take the image and likeness of people and put it onto a machine so that, it can do what we want it to do for us. In the same way that idolatry has always been practiced, where we take the image of, a god or an image of, an animal, and we put it onto an object so that we can ask of it the things that we really want. It's this weird kind of relationship that tech is starting to kind of like grow into. It's this weird relationship that it has with like kind of old pagan ideas. And it's something I'm going to be exploring in my writing. And it's something I'm going to be exploring with future books that I write. But I just wanted to take this time and kind of like let you guys know, it's happening, okay? They're already doing this kind of stuff. They're already taking dead people and trying to make them talk with AI, and B, to get you thinking about where's that line going to be? Is it going to be comedians? Maybe it's going to be politicians. That's another terrifying thought, because like we all have deeply rooted political opinions about who we like and who we don't like. Well, what if you didn't have to, rely on them being alive anymore? Name a politician from, history that perhaps would be, suited for the times now. There's a lot of politicians that if you revive them through AI, is there any reason why a person could say, that I'm just using what the AI is telling me to do, and then running with them as kind of a running mate? AI political running mates could be an avenue that this takes. But I really think it's going to get to the point where we start resurrecting, people who are more important than politicians, namely prophets. And I don't think they're going to be Christian prophets. I don't think anyone's going to try and resurrect Elijah via AI so they can ask Elijah, what they should do about, any number of topics. I think what they're going to do is truly turn this into the idol that I fear that it is, and that we're going to have AI prophets like Muhammad, or AI prophets like Joseph Smith. And I wouldn't put it past both religions that have kind of large bodies of work that they would be able to use to kind of inform their prophets and be able to claim that AI is their way of kind of accessing what the prophet would want to say, because they're able to give their writings voice the way a person gives a tape recorder voice. So some food for thought and some thinking. How pagan is your technological use? We'll talk to you guys soon.